Good afternoon, guys, and today we are in the South Wales Aviation Museum, just over from Cardiff, and we'll be running through some of the stuff that you can find here and trying to help the museum with their custom, and yeah, so that's what we'll be doing today. Yes. So we are currently sat in a simulator cockpit of a 747 aircraft, passenger aircraft, and is kind of cool. You've got your simulators just up front. You've got all your overhead displays, and if you'd like, guys, I will run through on some of the stuff that you can find inside the cockpit. So in front of me here, you've got your air speedometer. So that just tells you how fast you're going, a bit like a mile per hour gauge in a car. Down bottom shows you your bearing of what direction you're going. So say if you were going somewhere, it would be, I don't know, a 30-degree angle. Then we shall move on to the throttle. So the more you move one of these forwards, the more power you are going to have in your engine. You don't want too much, otherwise your engine will burn out, and that'll be very bad, especially if you're over the Atlantic. And yeah, I think I don't need to explain that anymore. Then down here you just have your dials and gauges. So that is that for now. Thanks, guys. So in front of us, guys, now we have a Panavia Tornado GR1. This is not owned by the museum, but is being lent to the museum by the Panavia Tornado Restoration Group. So I'm just at the rear of the plane now, and if I look up here, inside there should be two engines. One of the things about this aircraft is that the preservation group come in about once a month and trying to restore this aircraft to do engine runs just outside of the hangar at MOD St Athan Airport. So just by here we have something that's called a Raptor. It's practically a really big camera that's worth about £4 million. It's not worth that now, but in its heyday it would have been worth a heck of a lot of money. Just at the front there is a little bit of information on there. I'll just glance on that a bit so you guys can read it. So moving on to, let's go and have a look at the undercarriage bay. So walking around, we've got the landing legs here, and then once it is at a suitable altitude, it will increase and come up into this bay. So in here you can see there's lots of wires for the electronics and hydraulics. The Panavia Tornado GR1 is mostly hydraulics and electrics, so means it does take a lot of looking after. So then where shall we move on to next? Let's go and have a look at the underneath of this. So the preservation group have taken off some of the panels so that we can see the pipes and stuff that's in this aircraft. So most of them are fuel lines and just different kind of things like that. Moving on to some of the electrics. So this would have connected the radios and antennas and things like that. Yeah, that's that bit. And then if we move on down here, we have a little place called Zone 19. So I do have to be very careful in here because there is full of oil, and there is quite a lot of things in here. Most of it, again, is electronics and fuel gauges. This one by here, I'm sure, is a fuel line. I'm not too sure on that, but there is a lot of things to go wrong in here, which just goes to show how much this plane is worth, which when it was first built, it would have been worth £45 million. In front of me, guys, we have now got the Folan Nat. This was originally a yellow jack, which was what the Red Arrows were called before they were the Red Arrows. I know everyone really does like the Red Arrows because they are truly amazing. but really this plane did spark the Red Arrow era. As I said, it was formerly called the Yellow Jack, and it would have been painted yellow with a white stripe. So now Joe is going to explain some of what is inside the cockpit for us. So, go for it, Joe. So now, guys, Joe is going to explain what you can find inside the cockpit of a Folan Gnat. So, over to you, Joe.
So, in here you can find all your screens. You've got some switches, airspeeds and all that, but mainly you got your control stick, or if you want to call it something else, you can control the plane. But yeah, you got your ejection handle, so you pull that out, something out down there, and you pull this back, and then without a thought, you're gone. You're up in the air. Yeah, that's all from me.
So, if you would like to come and see this cockpit and some of the other planes that we will go around very soon, just put into your Google search bar, all in capitals, SWAM, SWAM, for South Wales Aviation Museum, and you can come and witness all these amazing planes for yourself. So, in front of me now, guys, I have got the Fairy Gannet. This plane is probably the biggest aircraft in the SWAM collection. It was formerly used for naval combat and search and rescue in the Royal Navy on the HMS Illustrious and HMS Ark Royal. Some of you viewers may remember those aircraft carriers. They are quite old now and have been scrapped. Being with the new aircraft carriers are the HMS Queen Elizabeth and the HMS Prince of Wales. As I said, it was used as a combat aircraft, mainly as a search and rescue for other planes that did go down. And here is the star pod. So this is sort of like an exhaust for this aircraft. It could have been used as sort of like other things, and things like that. So now I am in the undercarriage bay. It is I am quite tall, and it is very, very high in here. And it just goes to show you how high this aircraft really is. So I don't really know much about this aircraft, but I do know that it was very old, and the technology is very out of date now. So this aircraft never ever fly again, sadly. So moving on now, we will be moving on to the Harrier jump jet, also used in the Falkland War. Now, here we have the Harrier jump jet, also known as the British Aerospace Sea Harrier. This aircraft was the very, very first aircraft to be able to hover and fly as a normal aircraft, which made it one of the most iconic planes ever to be built, and it was built by British engineers. So now I'm going to move on, and I'm going to show you how this aircraft hovers. So as you can see here, you've got the dials showing you, so this is 0, which is as fast as it can go, and then it sort of dials down then into 98 degrees, which is hovering position. Another thing that this aircraft was favoured for was it didn't need a runway to take off. It could just hide in a forest and take off as a normal plane, even a helicopter. Sorry. It is it's a pretty iconic aircraft. So now I'm going to move on around to what the Sea Harrier carried, which is AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles. This is probably one of the most famous missiles that SWAM has, and yeah, it's a pretty good missile for when it was used, which was in 1970s to 1980s. This has been replaced now. I don't really know by what missile, but I know that it is a lot more up to date. So, moving on to another aircraft. Thank you. So, we are just walking over to the Vampire aircraft. We've just got duck. Past the Harrier. And here we are. So now in front of me, guys, we've got the de Havilland Vampire. This was probably the first, or one of the first, jet-powered aircraft. Again, by British engineers. It's quite old. I will try and show you inside the cockpit. So yeah, it's very old, and this plane is currently under restoration by SWAM's restoration group. They are very good at restoring aircraft, as one of the Wessex helicopters has just been pulled out of the restoration hangar. So, in front of me we have got the ejection seat of a de Havilland Vampire, and as you can see, at the top, that parachute is used to pull out the main chute for the pilot, so it is a safe and I wouldn't say very nice landing as such. Vampire is also an iconic one because of the way it is shaped. So it has two beams running out of the back of it, and has got tailor-ons in the middle, left and right, which makes it a little more manoeuvrable and very big. So it does take a lot of fuel and is a very heavy aircraft with the engine it has inside it. So moving on to one of the last aircraft now. So now I'm just walking up the steps into the 737 fuselage, where you can see the inside of the passenger aircraft. So first we have the cockpit. Let me just put the torch on so you can see that. Some of the stuff has been taken out for other aircraft, which is why this aircraft is at SWAM, because it was going to be scrapped, but the SWAM decided to buy this aircraft for the public to see. So, moving on is one of the escape doors, just in case of the fire, and here we have the makeshift kitchen. So here is just a little hob, and then you have your hot water from there for the cabin crew to give you your refreshments. So now I am moving on, and oh my god, what on earth is he doing there? And we are moving on, and you can see up here is where all your first aid equipment would have been stored, and then also all your luggage would have been stored. This aircraft is quite small capacity. It does only house 16 per row, so it's not the biggest of aircraft, but it does have more compartments. It's just this aircraft was cut down small so that you could see what it's like inside. Give us a wave.